to my crazy kind of vlog things. I know it's been a tiny minute. I have kind of had a health thing going on for the last month and a half, so I'm finally better, thank the Lord. Everything is cleared and I can finally resume to normal activities. And so this is why this video is coming really late, but I thought it'd be kind of a good example too, or how to show you guys if you're not able to can right when you are getting the most tomatoes, this is kind of a good option for you. Also, I like to do this anyways just because, right, you'll get like 10 and then like 30 and then like 5, right? Like they're usually not very standard ratios when you get tomatoes. So this is why I like to do it, so I can do big batches of tomato sauce at a time. So if you did not get it from the title of this video, we are making tomato sauce. Now, I just do plain tomato sauce. I don't do spaghetti sauce or marinara, and I don't do pizza sauce because the only difference between the two is the seasonings. So what you'll see me do at the end is I'll make little mason jars of seasonings that I can just pour into the tomato sauce if I need either one of them. I also like just having regular tomato sauce because we use it a lot for soups here in the winter time. So we can kind of have all three varieties of what most people can, tomato sauce, marinara, and pizza sauce. So we're gonna go ahead and get, okay, so kind of how I've dealt with not really being able to collect out of my garden is freezing what I could collect. So I have a big baggie of the big boy tomatoes. I have the Roma tomatoes, and there's some cherry tomatoes in here, and then cherry tomatoes. Once I got to 3-gallon size baggies, I was kind of panicking because I wasn't sure when I was going to be able to can. And so at that point, I just started letting families and friends come over and pick whatever they want from my garden. I also let them take anything that wouldn't freeze well. So like zucchini, cucumbers, things like that don't really freeze very well. So I let them kind of take all of that. It's very sad because I spent a lot of time and money on the garden, and I felt like this year I didn't really get to enjoy it, like the best part of it, but that's okay. I have several more years of gardening in front of me, and next year my husband is going to build me a completely new garden, and it's going to be way easier to maintain, so I should be able to enjoy it even if it's not produced, like when it's not producing a lot, kind of like those earlier stages. So we are going to combine all 3 of these tomatoes today into a tomato sauce. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to weigh them. Now, these are not cut and they are not washed because I was very sick picking them. That was not something I was able to do. So usually I do like to cut the tops and the bottoms and wash them before freezing them, but that's something that I'm going to have to do today before we make the sauce. This is just a scale I use usually for sourdough, but I'm going to get kind of a rough estimate of how many I have, just so when I'm doing the rest of the measurements, excuse you, ma'am, just so when I do the rest of the measurements, oh, there is a hot pepper that snuck into there. That might have been a fun surprise. And then these are the big ones. Oh, we're falling off the scale here. Actually more pounds than I thought I had. Usually when I do this, I usually have 20 pounds. So today I have just about 10.5 pounds. So I will cut my recipe right in half. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we are going to defrost our tomatoes. So the nice thing about freezing tomatoes is when you defrost them, the skin peels right off them. So you don't have to blanch them. You don't have to go with like a peeler or anything like that. It literally slips right off. I'm going to take a bowl full of warm water and put the tomatoes in there. And as they're defrosting, you kind of have to go fast. We are gonna start peeling off the layers, and then we'll kind of do a really good clean of them once the skin's off. Okay, so I have my frozen tomatoes I want to put in my warm water. Now this is not like boiling water or anything, it's literally just sink warm water, like you should be able to touch it. And we're gonna let these start defrosting, and as they start defrosting. Look at the skin, guys. Like, it literally just peels off. And I have a napkin so where I can kind of just like collect all of the peels. The only downfall about this strategy is that your hands do get really cold. But at least it's nice to peel them. So cherry tomatoes, you can choose if you want to do this or not. I just quickly, they come off so easily that I do peel off the skin of them. I know several people who just, that's too big of a pain for them, so they just leave it on. I just quickly peel them off. It only takes a couple more minutes and they're really fast. There might be some additional background noise this video. I guess the boys decided that the corn in the fields right here are ready to harvest, so they are harvesting right now. Harvest season this year I feel like has been really weird. I feel like it's been pretty late. I think it's because we've had a lot of rain, so it took the corn a while to dry out. I know a lot of our farmer friends have been a little bit stressed about it, so I'm glad that they're finally getting it up. But I got tomatoes peeled. What I'm going to do now is take the tops off, and then we're gonna cut them into quarters or fourths, and lay them cut side down on parchment paper. Okay, so I separated my cherry tomatoes from the other guys, and I quartered and I left, you can kind of see some seeds. I use an immersion blender and it will break up any seeds that you have. So I don't get too worried about seeds. Some people really don't like the seeds. I need to take this guy out and recut the bottom. But I did chop up 2 very large onions. Remember, I'm just doing half of what I usually do. So 2 very large onions. I kind of mixed up cutting because I like some big chunks of onions, some small chunks. And so I left some big pieces, and you can see I cut some smaller. I like a different ratio. Either one is totally fine. I put some drizzle of oil on the top, parchment paper on the bottom. It's gonna go inside the oven at 425 for about 35 to 45 minutes. So we'll check it at 35 minutes. Okay, the apron is on because tomatoes are very messy. Didn't ruin, but I got some. I just cut the tomatoes. Okay, this is what it's going to look like out of the oven. So there's still a lot of water on here because my tomatoes were frozen. They hold a lot of water, but this is why we're going to simmer them, to help kind of get that water out of there. So I'm going to try and pour this into a large pot without spilling. This is either going to work beautifully or be the biggest disaster ever. Woo! Okay. I'm not a very graceful person, and that worked great. And then we're going to take our other one and do the same thing. Again, make sure that parchment paper doesn't fall in there. Okay, so I could have probably used just like a normal pot. I'm just so used to using a big one when I can. Put it on high. We are going to bring it to a boil, like a rolling boil, and then I'm going to turn it down and let it simmer for about 45 minutes. We really need a lot of that water to come out and start to thicken the sauce. And then once it starts to thicken up, we are going to use our immersion blender and get it to the consistency of the onions and the tomatoes of what we like. Some people like a chunkier sauce. Other people, when they think of tomato sauce, they think of like a really thin type of sauce. So it's definitely up to you and your preference of just what you like. Okay, so it is boiling now. And let's talk about like seasoning this. So I'm going to add salt, and I'm going to add just a little bit of pepper, and I'm going to add some dry herbs. So I have some dry basil and some dry thyme to it. Now, when you are canning tomatoes, tomato sauce, salsa, things like that, you really want to stay away from fresh herbs. Some people might disagree with me on this. This is the kind of struggle part about canning, and I feel like a lot of people debate a lot of things. The way I can is I can safely. And I don't mean that other people are not canning safely, but I am going to do all the precautions I can to make sure that the food that I can is safe. And so some people might think this is unnecessary, or some people think that why add this to it, and the whole reason I do is just so I can ensure that the food I'm giving my family is safe. Because really, if I were to eat or not can something that I know I took all the precautions for, I'm honestly probably not going to eat it. So this way I know that one, it's safe, and two, I'm going to grab it because I know that I did everything I can. So with tomatoes, there's a lot of talk about the acid level, right? And so I personally do add a secondary acid when I can. So I use lemon juice. You can use citric acid. Some people don't add anything, and they say that's what their grandparents live by, that's what they've done, it works for them, that's great. Again, I am just gonna play it safe, just because I usually play it safe in life, and this is just one of those things that I'm like, I just don't really want to risk it. And I use lemon juice, and lemon juice doesn't really change the taste to it, so you guys will see that when I actually do the canning process of it. But the reason why you want to stay away from fresh herbs is because it's already kind of a tricky area when it comes to acid level in canning, and fresh herbs can actually drop the acid level even more, and so you're kind of even more risking it not being acid enough. So you want to stay away from fresh herbs, only use dried herbs. And usually I will use my own dried herbs because I literally, guys, I barely harvested any herbs because of everything. And then I saw the bunnies and the butterflies were just loving it. I was like, you know what, they can have it this year. I will let them have it. So I just bought store-bought herbs and just gonna plop it in here. I'm going to do probably 2 tablespoons of salt, and we're just gonna let it kind of cook and simmer for, again, I'm probably gonna do 35 minutes since mine's only a half a batch. Sterilizing my jars. If you did not watch my last video, I kind of talked about how to know if you have to use a hot jar, warm jar, or cool jar when canning. My tomato sauce will be warm, so that means my jar needs to be warm. So that's why I kind of wait to sterilize it until this point, just so my jars are nice and warm and ready to go. Guys, I almost forgot about the cherry tomatoes. So I need to add them into this pot. The reason why I wait for the cherry tomatoes at this point is because I found when I roast them, they kind of just disintegrate and like they're non-existent. And so I feel like I get more, they just do better simmering and breaking down this way versus roasting them. So they will get added in here. They will boil for 45 minutes now. I'm gonna bump up the time since I forgot about them. And then we will blend them up and have our lovely tomato sauce. Okay, it's been about 45 minutes, and you can kind of see this is where my sauce is at. Because I'm going to make a tomato sauce, I am going to try and make it pretty thin. I'm using a emulsion blender. You can use a food processor or like a regular blender. I like to use this just because it's less of a like cleanup in the sink. It does make it a little bit more messy over here, and it is a little bit longer doing it by hand, but I'd rather do that than clean up 8 million blender parts. So careful, it's hot, it splashes. I got my covers on and we are ready to make this a sauce. Okay, so this is kind of the texture that I keep it. You can kind of still see some of the chunks. It is kind of a thicker sauce, a lot like, it probably could be considered a marinara, honestly. One thing that I definitely do more than probably the average person is seasoning. Me and my husband season everything all the time, and so there's definitely more herbs in here than like a normal standard tomato sauce would be. Usually a tomato sauce is pretty plain, but because I use it for soups and pizzas and pastas, like the seasoning is already going to be in there, or I'm already gonna have to add it in there, so I might as well add it now. I did make an additional seasoning if I want to make it a true marinara, but we'll try this. It's probably so hot. Now I would say if I added garlic to this, like roasted garlic, you could fully put this as a marinara sauce. I still have the pot of water that the cans are in still warm, not boiling, but still warm. This is the part I was talking to you guys about adding the extra acid. Do your own research and kind of decide what you want to do. Again, this is something I do just to make a super safe canning. So I'm gonna put a half a teaspoon in every single jar, just at the bottom, of lemon juice. Now, I would recommend using like the bottled lemon juice versus fresh lemon juice. The bottled lemon juice is less concentrated, and so you don't really even taste it. Now with fresh lemon juice, obviously it's a lot more concentrated, so you might have the chance of tasting it. I've never done it with fresh one. I just have heard people in the past have. Now, if you want to use citric acid, if you don't want to risk tasting lemon juice, it is 1/8 of a teaspoon for a half a pint. So I'm only doing half pints because it's just me and my husband, and that's all we need. If you were to do a full pint, which I feel like most people do, you would do a whole teaspoon. All right, let's get to ladling in our sauce. I'm gonna try and do this as clean as possible without a funnel. I don't know what happened to it at all. Again, I'm going to leave about 1 inch of headroom here for the seal. Way more than I thought I was going to. I have 6 half pints and 2 full pints. And again, this was only 10 pounds of tomatoes. So what I'm going to do now is take the lemon juice. You can use white vinegar as well. And I'm just going to wipe the outside rim, especially since I did not have that funnel. I made a really big mess when pouring these. And so this just makes sure that I have a really good seal, because you do not want it not to seal. So I'm going to clean these up, put the lids on, and then we are going to drop them in the water, non-boiling right now. Once it gets to a boil, we're going to put it in there for about 35 to 45 minutes. I always like to do extra, again, just playing it safe. So mine will be in the water bath for 45 minutes. Okay, they just got out of the water bath and they look so good. If you guys notice this like white layer, around your jars. That's just the hard water. We have insanely hard water here, and I usually put cream of tartar in the water to prevent that from happening, and I did when I sterilized it, and I was hoping that there was enough left still in the water that I didn't need this time, where I was very mistaken. You can clearly see the hard water all over it, but that's okay. It doesn't interfere with anything with the canning process. It just doesn't make them look as pretty, but that's okay. But I'm not going to lie to you guys, this is some of the best sauce that I have truly made. Like tasting wise, I don't know what it is, if it's these tomatoes or what, but because I taste this sauce, I wasn't gonna do as many tomatoes next year, but after tasting this I was like, okay, I guess we will do the same number of plants, because these were really, really good, and hopefully next year I will be feeling good during kind of like the prime of canning. So I hope you guys try this recipe out. I always attach a Canva like recipe book. You can call it kind of a collection of the recipes that I post here on my YouTube channel. So that will be linked down below. We finally decided on our homestead name. And so we did go ahead and make an Instagram for our homestead if you guys want to follow it. It is Wingin' It Acres, winging it like a bird wing, and then it acres. I also attached it down below. We have a lot of fun projects coming up, and just so you guys can kind of introduce to the homestead and see how we're going to make it grow. We've only been here for 4 months and 5 months. 4 or 5 months, like 4.5 months. And we've already done a lot, but we have a lot coming up, especially in springtime. And so we're trying to get as much as we can done before winter. We'll have winter, and then spring is when we are really going to start having animals and everything. And I'm so excited. So make sure you guys follow the Instagram and of course our YouTube. This is where most of the videos and the longer videos go. But if you guys have any questions about canning or how we started off or where we're at, go ahead and comment down below. I love talking with everyone, and I'll see you guys next video. Bye.